Here's another one that kind of relates.
Okay.
Does Eric think that the narrow shafts and resonant chambers and large magnetic stone structures at the Giza complex in Egypt might be something to do with telluric or earth currents? The technology of old and new, as Tesla said. Okay, I'm not,
Well, that is quite possible. If you build a structure that picks this up. Now, one thing I'd like to point out, somewhat in relation to that, is out in the desert you have these things called crystal hills, which are outcroppings of quartz veins. And if it's very, very quiet, no wind or whatever, and you're out far away, and you park yourself on top of one of those and let your ears become relaxed, you can actually hear the telluric signals. So now if you built a structure, and you have to remember that not all of the pyramids there is probably a layer of quartz and gold that covered the whole thing that actually, brought it into a full electrical being. So a lot of that stuff's been all ripped out. Now the thing is, people always ask me, where do these signals come from? How are they generated? Well, that's a real complex situation, because why would you have an 8,000 cycle sine wave? How can that be generated when they tell you the Schumann resonance is all down there on 8 cycles? So that really opens up a whole can of worms. It can't be generated by any mechanism that can be understood. I'm thinking quite possibly what it is metallic veins are structured in such a way to Earth to act as resonators and could be possibly producing these signals. I can't say it because I have no way of getting in there, and I don't have any antennas to study it, not alone a multiplicity of antennas to find where it's coming from. So it's a very interesting question. Now, one thing to really throw everybody off that loves physics and Einstein and all these things is my seismographs. Basically, and the frequencies indicate to me that the Earth is hollow. And that is how these waveforms are coming about, is because there's an inner boundary as well as an outer boundary, and there's quite possibly a sun in the center of the Earth. So we have a whole electrical dynamic inside the Earth. We can look at it as a horse and carrot. Is the electrical forces generating the earthquake, or the earthquake generating the electrical forces? And then by the law of reciprocity, they both generate each other. So we're dealing with, a situation that requires a lot of study and measurement, and that's like beyond me now, and don't expect any help from, the so-called agencies, particularly the U.S. Geological Service, to help you with any of this. They'll do everything they can to destroy you. In fact, actually in California, earthquake prediction is illegal. The system of Landers was, of course, never really meant to be a Chicken Little to scream to people that the earthquake's coming. It was designed to work more as a weather forecasting mode. Earthquake forecasting system. The name for the system is Advanced Seismic Warning, ASW, which kind of rhymes with the Navy anti-submarine warfare, because it really did derive out of submarine radio communications technology. So these are all the things you have to deal with on this. It's not just a simple, this is what's happening, that's what's happening condition.
Next one, we have the process of repulsion. So in the process of repulsion, we don't have lines of force pushing the two objects apart. What it is the lines of force now have to terminate on more remote surfaces of molecular dimensions. And what it does is it pulls them away rather than pushes them away. So the repulsive process is not really a pushing apart, it's a pulling apart. And there's a void here in the middle of the absence of electrification rather than a concentration of it. Okay, now Euler's ether, and one which was prescribed to by Tesla to compensate for or to give an idea of gravity, that's further down the line here. We'll just cover that one briefly because it's specialized. Okay, now both Euler and Tesla felt that there was a type of gas where the mean free path of the particles was so intense because of their extremely high velocity that they would never hit each other in any fathomable distance through space. In other words, they could go for light years through space without hitting each other. It's a peculiar type of gas. Tesla confirmed the existence of these particles, which he called his cosmic rays, which are not really connected to the cosmic rays as they're told today. He had discovered a primary type of cosmic ray, which he said moved at 50 times the velocity of light. Now, what these guys all thought is that what gravity is, because it's not just simply two things attracting, something has to make them pull together. And we saw by the lines of force that what appears to be pushing apart is really pulling apart. If we look at it this way, is if these randomly moving ultra gas particles strike an object, many of them will go right through. Like these rays can be detected in the deepest mines of the world without suffering any attenuation. They can go right through the planet, but a certain amount of them will hit something. Now what happens is that creates a dead zone. So now you no longer have a uniform pressure of impacts around the object because the mean free path is so extreme that what it does is now this void zone, you have more lines pushing here and more lines pushing here than you do here or here. And this is what causes objects in space to move towards each other, is they're actually pushed externally. It really is the most sensible view of how gravity operates. But it leads to some conclusions that are very unpopular. Because by this type of theory, all of the planets and the sun have to be hollow. And people don't like to talk about that.
Yeah, and also the engineering is getting real sloppy and dangerous because the original knowledge and understandings and workmanship are all disappearing. So it's just like we were discussing earlier about the interference and all that, is the system's becoming basically out of control. And no one really understands how to put these things together anymore, or how to configure the transformers, or the safety requirements is all gone. So basically, from the sociological standpoint, what I'm presenting here and talking and write about is actually no interest whatsoever to society.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous condition we're in. Would you not say?
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes you head for the hills.
Yeah, when you start analyzing waveforms and signals like I do, and see what's going on inside the Earth, you find out that there's this large body of electricity that's becoming more and more out of control inside the Earth from all these aberrant power systems that are going into construction and installation. And it's a danger to the public.